Hey everybody, welcome back to Hannah L. Clark's Writing Gems. For those of you who are just joining me, my name is Hannah L. Clark. I am the author of the previously self-published young adult fantasy adventure called Kabogoth, but back in October, Kabogoth was picked up by a professional publisher, and after having been heavily revised, is being re-released on May 13th as Uncovering Kabogoth, and rather than being just a fantasy adventure, it is now more of a young adult fantasy romance adventure. So there's a much more of a love story in here, which I'm way excited about. So it will be released on May 13th, and we are way excited about that. Today is writing gem number 8, and I'm going to be breaking up this topic into two sections. I want to talk about storytelling tools. This is going to be part 1, and then we'll do part 2 next time, because there are a lot that I want to cover with you guys. I remember, if you guys remember that have been watching these, back, I don't know if it was the first or second writing gem that I talked about. I talked about a workshop that I was able to attend with the fantasy author Dave Farland, also known as Dave Wolverton. He has 2 pen names. Anyway, it was fantastic, and I learned so much, and I've been able to, over the last year and a half, really apply those tools, or the things that he taught, into my own writing, and seen how they've worked, and it's been awesome. So I wanted to share these tools with you guys, so that you can benefit as well, because they've been really cool. So I wanted to talk about storytelling tools today, and the first one I wanted to talk about was, he talked about description. Now, description, it's kind of odd to think of that as a tool, but it really is. And he broke this up into this this idea that each genre has its own secret language. So, for instance, when you read a romance novel, there's a certain set of vocabulary language that they use in that particular genre. Same goes with fantasy or suspense novels, or law suspense novels, and contemporary literary novels. So he talked about how important it is to really study our genre and that language, that secret language, so that we can get the hang of it. And then also why that's so important is because it creates what he calls resonance. So that when your readers come to your novel, they recognize, and it resonates with them, that they are reading a fantasy novel or a romance novel or whatever. They trust you a lot more, because it shows in your writing that you understand the genre. But he went a step further with that by saying, through that resonance of the secret language of the genre, we as authors want to take that secret language, make it our own, and put our own sort of flavor to it, so that not only do the readers recognize that they're reading a romance or a fantasy or whatever genre novel, but they recognize that they're reading your novel in that genre. So, examples of that is, Danielle Still, romance novel. Unfortunately, I've never read one of her books, but I imagine she has a really strong voice that is distinctly her own within the romance genre. Same with J.K. Rowling, or Neil Gaiman, huge, very distinct voice. So that's a really big tool to really develop. Now, the reason why I think that this is such an important concept, this idea of writing tools, is it really supports the philosophy that I introduced earlier on in the series of these writing gems, that that storytelling isn't just something this gift that some people have and other people don't. It's something that can be learned. It's a formulaic sort of a process, and for me, as a starting out author, that was really hopeful, because I did believe that it was just given to some and not others, and so attaining that goal of becoming an author, becoming a storyteller, seemed early on kind of impossible. But as I've learned and studied it out, it's become more and more formulaic, where you can actually study these tools and really master your craft, no matter what your talents are. I mean, you can develop this talent or develop this skill, just like any other skill. So that was really helpful for me. The next tool that he talked about were quiet scenes. Now, this has ended up playing a big part in my process of revising Kabogoth to become what it is now with my new publisher. In Kabogoth, the self-published version, there were pretty much no quiet scenes. It was all just this fast-paced action going on for the whole book. And I actually had a really good friend of mine make the comment that she's like, it's just so exhausting. There's like no downtime. And I thought that because my book takes place over 3 days, I thought that I kind of had to make it, you know, this fast-paced thing, that there wasn't really any time to slow down and let it really sink in. And that is not true. I found that adding quiet scenes within my original manuscript has really richened it and made it much more round and full and a much more complete story, because quiet scenes give you an opportunity to plug in a little bit of backstory. They give you an opportunity to really flesh out your character, because they're able to really think about, in their way of thinking about what's just happened or what's going on or how they feel about it and whatnot. So never underestimate the power of quiet scenes. They are important in your work. So figure out a way to master that with your own style, your own description, and your own secret language, as Dave Farland put it. The next tool that I wanted to talk about was something that Dave Farland called the X of Evil. And he drew us a diagram like this of an hourglass. And how this kind of works, this tool, is that within your story, the X of evil you would use it as, with your character would start out with evil being far away. So perhaps they just heard rumors of it, or it's not in their immediate life. So it's not really a danger. But as they go on through their journey, evil becomes close to them and becomes a part of their life, and they see how that evil is affecting their own life, which, you know, creates a lot of motivation for your character to eradicate that evil. But then as you go on in the story, your character realizes that the evil isn't just close, it's in their own heart. And the only way for your character to accomplish the climax or save the world, as he put it, is for them to figure out a way to eradicate that evil out of their heart. Now, a really good example of that is in The Lord of the Rings with Frodo Baggins. He starts out in the Shire where evil is far away, it's just rumors of evil, and he's very naive when he sets out on this journey to carry the ring to Mount Doom. But as he goes on, of course, evil starts coming in his path the further he gets away from the Shire, and he realizes that this really is a danger to him and his people back in the Shire. And so he's more motivated to figure out a way to destroy this ring. But then, as he goes further along, he realizes that the ring has corrupted his heart. And therefore, the only way to save Middle-earth is to destroy the ring. And he has to overcome that evil in his heart in order to be able to do that. So that's a great example of the X of Evil, that tool. So, and that can of course be implemented into any genre, any kind of story, which is so great about these tools, because they can be translated throughout different genres. The next tool that he gave us was dilemma. And what dilemma is giving your main character, two equally horrible choices or two equally wonderful choices. And what this does is, not only does it make it more interesting, because your character has to figure out a way to choose between these two choices, and therefore it creates conflict and consequences and whatnot, but it also involves your reader even more into your story, causing them to invest even more into your story, because it gives them the opportunity to think, well, what would I do in this situation with these two equally bad or equally good choices? What would I choose? And so that really is a tool that you can use to really draw them in further, getting them to really invest in your story by thinking what would they do. Now, the only thing that he said about that you really needed to be careful of is making sure that whatever choice that your main character does end up choosing, it has to be validated. You have to make sure that the reasons are really solid reasons so that it's believable. Otherwise, you kind of lose the effect of it. The last tool that I'm going to talk about today is something called tripling. And this is something that I haven't quite mastered yet, but I love reading about it in books. other people's work. And it's called tripling, and it's, I'm going to explain it because it's, tripling kind of gives you an idea of what it is, but anyway, so the first stage of the tripling is foreshadowing. So you give the reader like dimmed down version of what will happen. So it's kind of a symbolic version of what's coming. Then the second stage of tripling is the actual event. And with this actual event, it ends up exceeding expectations, exceeding the reader's expectations or the main character's expectations. The third level of the tripling, their third stage, is the haunting. So after the actual event is happening, it's the stage where your main character and the reader are able to really absorb what has happened, and they realize that it's much more impactful than they even realized when the actual event was happening. So that's the power of tripling, and what that does is it really, you know, it's able to create something. Like he used the example of using tripling to create a sense of wonder in your reader, like in fantasy. So, you know, the foreshadowing would be like a dim version of the world building that you're doing, and then when they actually experience the world building, it's like this really exceeds expectations kind of a world that they're experiencing. And then the haunting afterwards, as they have time, both the reader and the main character, to let it soak in, it's like even bigger. So it really impacts the reader and impacts the main character as to how unbelievable this world is. So that can be used, of course, in any genre. He also gave a really good example of it in romance as well. So anyway, those are the first set of storytelling tools that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I hope they're helpful and that they help you along in your journey to find your own path to whatever your writing goals are, becoming a published author or whatnot. So we will see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by, and look for my book in May 13th. So exciting. And we will see you guys later. Bye.